Thank you. That is courtesy of the people of Kazo.
The people of Kazo have done you well, right?
Thank you, thank you.
I'm waiting for Dan's name to be mentioned in the unveiling cabinet.
There is no smoke without fire. There is no smoke without fire.
I didn't
By
know.
the time the gentleman starts talking about some, he's an investigative journalist, by the way, just so you remember.
No, he could also be a PPS of some sort in that cabinet. Who knows? By the time you know what is on the list.
Anyhow, Raymond Mojuni, very good morning to you. Happy New Year, and thank you so much for making through.
Thank you so much for having me. I see you're trying to cripple the operations of the Institute by having both the ED and Deputy ED, but it won't work. It won't work.
Someone can take over right now. They can hijack. But no, it won't be crippled at all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making your time. And I want to start with Council Agatha at this particular point in time. The Computer Misuse Act, and especially Section 25, which was expunged, I would say. Let's first of all probably pay attention to this. Offensive communication. Any person who willfully and repeatedly uses electronic communication to disturb or attempts to disturb the peace, quiet, or right or privacy of any person with no purpose of legitimate communication, whether or not a conversation ensues, commits a misdemeanor and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 24 currency points or imprisonment not exceeding 1 year or both. What did this decision of the court speak to you? What does it say about the continued discussion regarding freedom of expression?
Thank you, Mildred.
You're welcome.
First of all, I hate titles, so Agatha is good. Yeah? Cancel, whatever, no, I don't like.
I will say, terms and conditions apply on the show since I am the host, but okay, Agatha, I'll make you feel comfortable. Go ahead. You see, that's a very
No,
reason.
I don't work hard for the titles.
You went to school for them.
I went to school to get the knowledge, not the title. They don't. So, no, it doesn't. I'm not even looking for clients.
Okay, Agatha, go ahead.
So,
All right.
so on the 10th of January, the Constitutional Court nullified Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act 2011. When the biggest distinction to make is that there was the Computer Misuse Act of 2011.
Yes.
And there was the Computer Misuse Amendment Act, courtesy of Honorable Dan Chimosho. It was earlier moved by Honorable Nsereko, but in his presence, he tabled it for the final debate and consequential passing. So there was that confusion in the public with people thinking that that is the law that had been nullified. But the law, in its initial form as the Computer Misuse Act, people had issues with it. That you have Section 25, for example, that talks about offensive communication, which offensive communication is not even defined in clear terms of what is offensive and what is going to disturb someone's peace or something like that, because those things are very subjective. What disturbs my peace is not what disturbs yours, or I am not going to stay there and keep guessing what I might say might disturb someone's peace. So there were petitions about the initial act itself. Now, later when in 2022 they passed the Amendment Act, which is worse and more outrageous than that, it is also challenged. I am one of the petitioners in that petition. It's challenged by so many people, human rights, Chapter 4, HRNJ, Center for Constitutional Governance, Honorable Winnie Chiza. But I think the first petition was by Digitox, Norman Tumhims, and many other people. That one, it's challenged in its entirety, all the provisions of the Amendment Act. But in the initial act, what has been nullified is only the Section 25 that was challenged by Andrew Karamaji and Robert Shaka. But the important thing is that it sets the ground or gives us hope that what we challenged later could follow suit, because court agreed with actually the issues we also have with the Amendment Act that comes later, the vagueness, the infringement on the freedom of speech and expression in guaranteed in Article 29. So this is a very welcome, I would say, judgment. But like many of my colleagues have said, it should be obvious. It should have been obvious. We shouldn't be surprised and happy that this, because the fight to protect freedom of expression starts much earlier. The case of Charles Onyango Bo and Andrew Mwenda, which was challenging also the criminalization of false news, where the court said actually false news should also be protected. What should be protected is not just the popular opinion, even an opinion authorities don't want to hear. And Justice Kakuru actually reiterated that in this judgment, that we should be able, he quoted the European Court of Human Rights, which talked about we should be able to, the right to offend that you're talking about, the right to shock, the right, we cannot be held at gunpoint that we shouldn't offend someone. Because if I sit and say, I'm not going to say what will offend, us as journalists, we will never work. And that's what we're saying about this new law that came. You are telling us to have authorized access, you're telling us to not give out unsolicited information. All those things infringe on that right. And I am glad that the courts have reiterated what was said in the Charles Onyango Bo and Andrew Mwenda versus Attorney General case, and that this is upheld. But again, we should not be litigating against things as obvious
as they should be.
As that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Agatha. I'll be coming back to you. Let me come to Raymond. The fight for freedom of expression is, I think, going to be an endless fight. But after the nullification of Section 25, can one officially say, now I can speak and offend? Because in the context of who determines who gets offense and what offense is very, very subjective, as Agatha does say. What do you make of this nullification? And probably what does it say about the amendment, which is also being challenged? I know that's in court. It could be sub judice. We may not be able to go into the details.
I look forward, of course, to the nullification of
the entire Amendment Act.
Yes, the entire Amendment Act. Of course, I also agree that there should be limitations to the freedom of expression. But what limitations must be imposed? One, the biggest fight really is there's a problem between individuals. Does it become a problem of the state? If you and I, Mildred, are angry at each other, should the state intervene in our anger against each other? That's, I think, the first heart of the matter. And that's where the offensive communication comes in, which is if I abuse Dan Kimosho today and he feels angry about it, should he invite the police into our matter, or should he go to the civilian courts and say, this man, Raymond Mujuni, abused me on this day and this is defamation? In which case he will get remedies. Now, the criminalization of speech, that is where we have a problem, which is if someone has abused you, I don't think that the police should get involved. Some of the limitations for which I think are justified is when your speech is very likely going to cause harm. And that harm must be present danger that we can see, touch, and feel. It must not be some harm that you anticipate will happen. So that limitation on the freedom of expression can happen. But the vague nature of this act is in such a way that you don't know when you're offending someone. And it's not just the one that's been nullified, it's also the amendment. In the amendment, you don't even know if I forward you information, for example, I don't know if that information will offend you. I don't know if you've solicited that information. And that nature of vagueness should always be challenged. And I salute the courts for standing up, but I would want to also focus on the political culture. The courts are just one half of this. The second is the political culture. Very honestly, our politicians must look into the mirror and ask themselves, why is it that people are abusing us? What is it about the people that we govern that makes them...
Unquote. This,
Yes.
this is not obscenity that we are talking about.
No, justifiably, I mean. Some people have said we deserve the right to call you stupid. I think that's an abuse. But the political culture of the day must ask themselves, why are these people that we govern abusing us? Why aren't they abusing other aspects of society? Why is that abuse very targeted to the politicians? And we are at that age where our political class is enjoying the front full benefits of people's hard work. And people aren't seeing results for that hard work. So the progressive breakdown of the social contract is going to create this anger in people. And it's justifiable anger. Even us who are the middle class in this country, there's justifiable anger. You drive down the street and people are abusing you, borders are abusing you on the way you drive. There's justifiable anger. And understanding the source of that anger for the politicians is very important. Legislating that anger is not important. Understanding it is important. And trying to diagnose the problem. So I think I'm looking forward really the cancellation of the entire Amendment Act. But I'm also looking forward to the Constitutional Court, for once, really stamping their foot down Parliament's throat, because this isn't the first time that Parliament is trying to legislate the freedom of expression. It really isn't the first time. And I have suggested before, and I'll suggest again, I think we've reached a point where for every swearing-in package they give a member of Parliament, the judgment of Charles Onyango should be attached to the swearing-in documents. During the orientation period, it should be taught, because Parliament is on a daily basis going to interact with individuals. Those individuals will speak in a way that might appear as abusive to Parliament, but that's the nature of the politics that they deal in. And the fact that we have very divisive politics, legislation won't solve it. You've got to put in the hard work, roll down the sleeves, and understand where the problem is coming from.
Well, I totally agree with you, especially when it comes to understanding the context of that anger. By the time someone is angry, and that's the population, those are the taxpayers, there is a particular reason. And this is where I would like to bring in Solomon, and I will end with a legislator. Do we need to continue with this legislation of who offends who, a very subjective matter at that point in time? Like Agatha said, I could say a word and everyone is angered except her. Or I could say a word expecting that I am going to anger. No one is actually bothered about what I've said.
I actually think it's just selfishness.
Okay.
It's immaturity for me. Because I believe that maturity is the ability for us to accept our differences in opinion. And what the political class, just like what Raymond was saying, is trying to protect themselves from, from being subjected to accountability in whichever form. Let's talk about cartoonists. And the law says that if you disturb the peace and the quiet and right of privacy of anyone, you are liable to actually go to prison and also to pay. Cartoonists communicate in whichever format, by the way. They will draw a cartoon, but it will communicate. I know, we all know Spire, we all know Chris Ogon, we all know Rastoon, and in a way they're trying to communicate. What if that cartoon they drew actually offends the president? Or offends who they are trying to communicate, and they say, you have offended me, and you've put that cartoon actually online, and it moves. You have offended the peace of the president and of anyone because you've been drawn in a cartoon. Let's face it, cartoonists have played a critical role in putting the people in power and to account. Imagine when they draw a snake and they put a head that resembles you and they're trying to communicate in a way, and you say, well, I'm offended.
But that
how do you
could also be another person who just looks like you and
see,
you say it is you.
But you see, that sometimes, and so they will say, basing on the cartoon and the way it's drawn and the communication, they're actually referring to me, Cartoonists have a way of navigating past all that, but they put out that communication. You do an investigative story that offends the president or any political person.
Yeah.
You are taken to court. You have offended and you've disturbed my peace, even when there is evidence, by the way. So I agree entirely when Raymond says that the political players, when they are coming in office, they should be reminded about the very fundamental right of freedom of expression. Perhaps they should read the Onyango Bwandu Mwenda case, because it really is and when the MPs and those in the political class continue to protect themselves against scrutiny of the public, because sometimes it gets to that, you know, you don't say anything about us, you don't say anything.
No, they're saying you can, but regulated. I mean, regulate your tone, know what to say and what not to say at what time.
And you see, so how do I know, Mildred, that I've offended you now?
You could. It
What
could
is
be
the definition of
premeditated.
offense? You see, premeditated.
Yes.
Now Mildred is also adding to that.
Yes, it could be premeditated. Let me say this statement. I know that Agatha is going to be offended at that. Agatha, I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah, but
let Solomon
let me just
conclude
wrap
this.
it up.
Yes.
I'm just saying that I'm really happy that the courts of this country have really stood up. Because if we really are regulated with what we say, we will question everything that we say. Even when we want to call out people and put them and hold them accountable, you're double guessing yourself. You're like, will this question offend this guy? And your national TV.
I know.
You second guess, you think twice about everything. And that means people can...
Self-censorship.
Yeah, you'll self-censor because of the law.
Yes.
Because someone will... I'll tell you an example. I've heard that someone is actually taking this station to court. And they are serving an intention to sue.
There are so many. There are so many still in the courts of law.
So you can imagine
yes.
what the future of the media and its ability to question the powerful is when such laws actually stand.
I totally agree with you. Now, this is not very far away from the Amendment Act, and Honorable Dan Kimosho, I'm coming to you, with regards to the same contentions under Section 25 that was nullified, the same contentions in its entirety for the Amendment Act. What does this speak to the nullification vis-a-vis the amendment that was passed by the House that you sat in?
Thank you very much.
We could call you the deputy of the Seroko law.
Naturally,
in that case.
Naturally,
yes.
I would expect what I'm hearing. And I have no problem with it. The only problem is that trying to impute that the law was brought in to protect politicians. I think the spirit was different. And the spirit, in my view, was that yes, freedom of speech is okay.
Yeah.
But this freedom must or should be regulated, especially in a community that is still grappling with civilization. I have seen, like you have seen, people outrightly abuse these platforms and the computers and whatever. And my concern is that someone who does that has that entitlement and the feeling that it is their right to offend anyone else. But they don't want to take responsibility. I know, my brother was talking about defamation. Then you go to defamation, then you argue whatever you argue. But you've already defamed me. I mean, even if you pay me whatever you pay at the end of the day, to my children, to my family, to the people that understand me differently, you have already defamed me, and I may not go back to correct the record to the extent that is necessary for them to understand me differently. And by the way, either way, even if I took him on, for example, I'm just giving an example, for defamation, and I won the case, it is a bit unfortunate that many would not, even when I win him, they will still not agree with me or any other person. Normally, people that offend, the way I see it, normally, is that they are at a lesser advantage compared to the offended. And even if they win, they take it that you have maneuvered your way to that win. And you may not restate the original position as to how you are being understood, and later on how you are understood by the damage made by someone who thinks abuse, insult, offending is their right, but they have no responsibility.
As you continue, Honorable, I'll just like to loop in there that are you looking at the context of the reasons as to why this person who is abusing is coming from? Or are you choosing to legislate the effect, the after effect of, I have abused, but probably there is an undercurrent and a totally different aspect of the reason why I came up with that.
You see, the issue of abuse of computer, the technology and everything, you cannot predict with certainty or as to what informs the person. There have been people in this town, and you may know or don't know, whose work is to wake up, sit down, list the number of people they want to blackmail, call them, intimidate, even within the media, intimidate them. If you pay me, I will not. If you don't, I will. Even without anything against those people or persons. Now, while freedom of speech is okay and expression, but how are we able to manage it? And for me, even for this ruling we are talking about, it is okay. That's the framers of this constitution were alive to the fact that there should be checks and balances. And if Parliament, in their view, came up with this, and then there is also space for you to go and challenge it in courts of law, and the courts of law overturn it, I think that is only to confirm that maybe it is progressive, one, democracy, that these things can be checked, but also it would be wrong for anyone to think that how Agatha thinks or how I think, she should think exactly like how I think. The position and the spirit of Parliament could have been informed by what I'm explaining, and the spirit and the position of courts could have been informed by a different position. Okay. But what is very important is that there are structures and systems that check each other, agree at some point and disagree at the other point. But also, in our position as a country, I have seen countries where the media is vibrant, very vibrant in terms of even in terms of technology. I have always given you an example of Dubai. You cannot tell me that they don't have the media, or it's not doing well, or they have lesser technology. No, at all. But in enjoyment of your rights, you must be sure that you protect the rights of the other person. I gave you an example when, yes, we were there, of course, with our Ugandan context of freedom of speech. I had a friend, and the friend had bought a phone from a shop. Then reaching at the hotel, he realized this is no phone they had told him. So I went back the next day, and they started arguing with the guy who was in the shop. Out of anger, this Ugandan who believes in freedom of speech told the guy, "You are mad." The man said, "How? How?" In 1 minute, we were surrounded. It took us like 3 hours to apologize and explain that the man was not mad, but it was freedom of speech trying to be expressed here. And for me, I liked it for one reason. You do not offend me and go chest thumping, and you don't have any responsibility. And I am telling you, yes, we can all advocate for these abuses, but how are we?
Yes.
How are we setting the stage for the next generation that comes after us? So that while they are enjoying these freedoms, there is a level of sanity in the country, and because short of regulations, then that's when you see people starting to take the law in their hands. If he thinks it is right to insult me and embarrass me before my family, before my bosses, I'll go for him. And that was the spirit of Parliament, that no, now that yes, we are getting civilized slowly, let's also regulate the appetite of people trying to misuse these platforms and the technology.
Thank you very much. We're actually not advocating for abuses. We're advocating that the reason as to why people choose to abuse be addressed, which could be some of those society concerns.
Because why I disagree with all of you is to think that this is a political thing. It is. It is not.
Oh, okay. We will be coming back to that discussion. Probably, that's the reason. But Agatha, I wanted to come to you on one discussion. That there are so many people who've probably been apprehended. They're behind bars, or they're in the process of the court of the law on the same section. You know, as the DPP does, which law have you broken, which section, and then there is the prosecution process takes place. What happens to them at this particular point in time? Is there any more case, or should we say whoever was prosecuted with regard to that particular section, the gates are open, you're flying out?
There are actually some who already served the sentence under that section. Stella Nyans, you did.
But
Retrospectively,
retrospectively, we wouldn't refer to them. Yes.
Well, the ruling part of it says its enforcement stops
Immediately.
Yeah. So those that are being prosecuted are luckier than Stella Nyanzi, who has already been prosecuted and served the sentence. She could seek remedies by maybe taking the people that prosecuted her to court and seek to be compensated. I don't know how that would work. But those that are still in the process, it stops there. But I'd wanted to make a clarification when we're talking about how do we know what will offend someone. And Honorable Dan is saying that with the example of someone saying you're mad and there's a problem. Like, imagine if someone had to be arrested for saying you're mad or you're stupid or I disagree with you or I don't think. So I wanted to read part of the judgment that I was saying is my favorite part of this judgment, because one of the reasons the law was nullified, apart from it being infringing on Article 29, was for being vague, overly broad and vague. And this is what we were talking about here when Solomon was saying, how will I know what question to ask someone that will not offend them? And the judge, Justice Kakuru, said, laws which do not state explicitly and definitely what conduct is punishable are void for vagueness. A statute is also void for vagueness if a legislature's delegation of authority, judges, and administrators is so extensive that it would lead to arbitrary prosecutions. Vague laws involve three basic dangers. First, they may harm the innocent, failing to warn of the offense. Secondly, they encourage arbitrary and discriminatory enforcement because vague laws delegate enforcement and statutory interpretation to individual government officials. So you're going to leave it to people to determine what is offensive, right? And you're going, because I might say you're stupid and you don't arrest me. Let's say we are seated here with two contending or rivaling parties. But someone from NUP can say you're stupid and Honorable Dan takes offense. So that means you're leaving that to people to interpret.
With the law not being specific on that interpretation.
Exactly. Yeah. So the law was not just infringing on Article 29, but also Article 28, the principle of legality and stuff like that. So if we are going to, Honorable Dan, I want you to agree that if you go into public service, we are paying you with our taxpayers' money. We have the right to demand, to question, to ask, or to express our grievances if we don't think you're doing what we expect you to do. Okay. And that's what Raymond talked about when Raymond said they are legislating the effects and not the cause. There are politicians in this country that have never been insulted by anyone. Hakana Rugunda. I can come to them. Yeah, because it comes from somewhere.
I will definitely be coming back to you.
It comes from somewhere. But also, even if all of them actually are, even if I go on and say, Honorable Dan, you are corrupt,
Then we
he
also get
said.
to ask why the politicians are
Like
not
he
the,
said.
the scholars or something like that.
And the political part of it, he knows it was political. He knows very well. All of us can go and watch the footage of passing the law that he presented. People saying, hey, you guys should all support this. You are all abused on social media. Right Honorable Speaker has said so many times, let them go to court. Let's see in that footage. Let's see if courts will agree, because they are also insulted. Courts are not as what's the word, petty. They are not going to arrest, punish people for insulting them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Agatha. I think I will give Raymond and then Solomon a bit before we wrap up and take a break. Yes, Raymond.
I'm a great lover of history. And in history, the first documented attempt to stop the freedom of expression was this scholar called Milton disagreed with the Catholic Church on divorce and said people should be able, if they don't agree with each other, to walk away from each other. At the time, in 16 BC, that was blasphemy, to talk about the fact that you can walk away from each other. Yeah. In fact, some people wanted to stone his home. Now, from...
And still is until death.
Yes. From that point, the courts said, what is a justifiable limitation to the freedom of expression? If I want to protest, I can protest. But should I go to Brother Kimosho's home at 10 p.m. in the night when his kids are sleeping and protest? No, there's a justifiable limitation on time and place. You can protest, but during the day in a public space. There's a justifiable limitation on harm, the harm principle, like I tell you. If there's a clear and present danger, if I tell Mildred, please slap Dan right now, there is a clear and present danger that you can walk from your seat and slap Dan. But the idea that you sit in Parliament, and this is something I want the legislators to know, we, the people in the media, are probably abused at a higher frequency than they are. I don't know an MP who gets, okay, there are some MPs who might be getting more abuse than I do, but I get abused on a daily basis on social media. I haven't gone to chase everyone who's abusing me. I have a thick skin, number one. Number two, I don't care. I really don't care. But if you're a member of Parliament, you draw from the public bus money, and that money pays your taxes. So you create the level of social contract where people genuinely demand accountability from you. They might be wrong in the way they demand it. You might not like the tone of their voice. You might not like the words in which they use to demand that accountability. But we trust that you can rise above, that you can have the thick skin to say, I think this person, despite the fact that of all the times in Uganda's political history, that people are most agitated on social media, what is it about the political class that is happening that's making people angry? It might be that there are no outlets for people's anger, and justifiably so, because people are saying, look here, we're paying taxes in a dying economy, but we see you guys buying fancy cars. These may not process things the way I process them. And that's the reason we have a constitution which governs all of us. And I love the fact that Justice Kakuru, in that judgment, reminded the legislators that the Constitution must be read as a whole. You can't pick and choose which parts to read and which ones not to read. And my final point is there are logical limits to the freedom of expression, but social embarrassment is not one of those limits. That you feel you will be embarrassed, drunks at barrios and the way they speak, and they create a level of embarrassment, but that doesn't take away their right to say the things that they are saying. If you disagree with them, if you're harmed by them, take up a civil matter with them, go to the courts of law, get a defamation suit filed.
Okay, please, I'll give you a minute. Yes.
It is to assume that if you, for example, insult or abuse me or offend me, it's me to take a civil direction to go to court. Where we are going,
but
that's
in the part that Agatha read, that the law should be able to define that whereas you're pursuing the road of justice, that the law can be able to define the case that you are presenting, not yourself.
What I'm telling you, with this hyper mood that we are developing as a country in terms of rights, in terms of what we must enjoy, and the generation that is coming before us, it is not going to be the direction of going to courts. You're going to see more cases of people taking the law in their hands to respond to what they perceive to be an offense against them. And in the spirit of Parliament, which you are castigating to be politically protecting itself, we thought because there's something we are envisaging that is likely to be a danger in the future, can we put deterrent measures? But also, what's wrong with a community or a society being civilized? And this has nothing to do with politics. It's only that for us, we are followed by the issue of voting and the rest, the voting patterns and the rest. But I can tell you the rate at which computer misuse and technology misuse has broken families, even in this country and elsewhere. And this is not a Ugandan matter. And the issue you're talking about, the issue, why now? You may want to say because of service delivery, yes, I may agree with you partly, but also the level of access to technology. People have accessed more of technology now than before. And the people that are accessing this technology also, we must accept that they have not been oriented to the extent possible. I have put on my phone, someone tells you, Dan, I want 5,000. And you don't send it. And he sends you a very serious abuse. Indeed, like you're saying, some of us have dropped thick skin and you
reply
ignore.
and say you don't deserve the 5,000, period.
And you ignore. But not because he's demanding a road, not because he's demanding a health center, because he wants 5,000 to go and drink his alcohol. And if you don't, he will abuse you, of course, up to your mother's bedroom. And for you, you think he's annoyed with the road. The man wants 5,000. So we thought gradually, if we set the standards, people would really fit in.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Honorable. I will definitely give you a chance, Solomon, when we do return from this short commercial break to weave up your views about the Computer Misuse Act, well remembering that even the Amendment Act of 2022 definitely is also being challenged in its entirety in the courts of law. We'll await to see what court pronounces or how court pronounces itself on that. It's a break. When we do return, that and much more is still lined up.
And Martin Sankotos builds the ball, and just like that, self-destruct.
The new Star Times Uganda Premier League season is here.
Straight into the back of the net.
Fresh. Watch more live games featuring top signings and renewed rivalries.
He literally has just vindicated his coach.
Uganda's Ultimate Football League also returns to a whole new dedicated channel. Watch the Star Times Uganda Premier League on Sanyuka Prime. Brought to you by MTN, the official broadcast sponsor.
Data usage tips to improve your experience. 1. Disable auto downloads and turn off auto sync to minimize unmonitored usage. 2. Restrict background data and delete unused apps for a smooth browsing experience. 3. Do not share MiFi or phone passwords to prevent unauthorized usage. For more tips, visit www.consumer.co.ug.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Well
World Cup ewedde. Kati amaaso tugaze ku mpaka za CHAN mu Algeria. Amawanga 18 nga ne Uganda yatuma ogitwalidde baagala kweggyako kikwa kya butava mu kibinja. Morocco efuba kukyeddiza. DR Congo n'erwana kw'ezzangulu ate Madagascar ezeetaba mu gusooka. Bakirimaanyi ba Afrika nga Mali, Ghana, Libya, Senegal n'abalala bonna batunuulidde kimu. Kikopo kya mpaka zino ez'abasambi abakutangira mu mawanga gaabwe bokka. Nyumira mipiira 32 gyonna egy'empaka za CHAN butereevu ku Sanyuka Prime okutandika omwezi guno ogwa January nga 13 okutuusa nga nnyo ogwokubiri 2023. N'abakafulu mu kwogerera omupiira mu lulimi olwaffe olwa wano. Tuula, kalira, anti Sanyuka Prime ne Star Times bagabudde. Kale kazaabike.
Home, spacious.
A very good morning to you once again. Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. It's the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show. And of course, you are watching the Media Roundtable, where we get to have journalists in their perspective making sense of some of the stories that make headlines during the week. As we went for the break, we were still talking about the nullification of Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act of 2011. I do still have Raymond Mujuni with me. I have Agatha Twire, who doesn't want to take her title as counsel as is, even when she's worked for it. I have Honorable Dan Kimosho with me. Kazo is well represented, together with Solomon Seranja right here. And I'll give you the point to just weave up your views about this nullification and the whole idea of freedom of expression. Are we legislating emotions? Are we legislating effects? Are we legislating the cause?
Mildred, when someone takes away your ability to freely express yourself, they have taken away your very humanity. Every time you want to say something, you triple guess yourself. You think, will this annoy and disturb the peace of Dan Kimosho? You're like, There's so many times when I've held this phone and I've wanted to put out a tweet. And I'm like, when I read it, I'm like, Then you delete and put the phone down. You're like, but I want to say it. You see, when you put such laws and people begin to self-censure to that extent of being careful, with what you say, and not openly saying what you feel about, your leader or people, then you suffocate with it. And when you continue to shrink these spaces where people can openly speak and express their views, even when they know they will annoy you. I've actually seen people who say, sorry, but I have to say this, That's how they feel. Let me give you an example. During the Toji Kwatako campaign, there are so many MPs that went to the constituencies to consult. Yeah. And clearly the electorates were saying, please, that is do not amend. What did the NRM do? They went to Entebbe, caucused, and said, we are voting as a bloc. And when they got to the house, they said, you stand up and put your vote. It should be out clear where you stand. When they came out, one MP said, for me, my electorate said I don't, but I represent my party, and I'm actually going with that. I am voting to amend the law. You have angered people in your constituency because clearly you consulted and they said, do not amend that constitution. So, in a way of expressing themselves, they will speak. and because the online platforms have given us an opportunity to express ourselves and tag the Honorable Dan Kimosho in a tweet and say clearly you're not fair with what you said because that's not what represents us. Yeah. Now, when that person has to second guess themselves and say, this will annoy Dan Kimosho, especially that is the deputy mover of this bill, he's going to use this clause and go to court. Okay.
Quote unquote, definitely.
In the absence of the mover, you're the deputy.
Was passed. He is the full mover. You have a full mover.
And I'm not running away from that. I'm only running away from deputy.
Okay. So the mover of the bill. Then Dan Kimosho will go to court.
The chief mover.
The chief mover will go to court and say, yes, you people of Kazo, you've actually put out this and it has annoyed me. You know what I mean? And because Justice School is saying you're not explicit on what actually is annoying people's peace and you know that, I mean, for me really in its entirety, I cannot wait for the Computer Misuse Amendment Act to just be quashed. Because clearly if it stands, tetujja kuba na bwogerero.
But anyway, that does continue with the discussion, and as well, I too can't wait to see what the court pronounces itself with regard to the Amendment Act of 2022, and the full mover or chief mover, deputy mobilizer, whatever it is, will be able to come through. I hope you're moving to court immediately after this and filing one. But it's quashed anyway. I can now be able to go ahead.
Offensive, whatever, unsolicited information.
I know.
Hate speech.
Unsolicited.
So, and considering that the courts are taking how many years between 2016 and now? Those are 7.
Yeah.
That courts are taking 7 years.
I could be taken. I could pay 24 currency points.
You can be in jail for 1 full year or 5 before this is.
But sorry to just ask this one little thing to that.
Yes.
That how do you feel that, in your conscience, how do you feel that you moved such a bill?
Thank you.
For you to say that in my conscience is to assume that sometimes
that you have a conscience.
But,
he has annoyed you again.
But I have given you my position.
Yeah.
And we are a very uncivilized country whose rights and freedoms must be regulated. 2, if you are thinking that you first abuse me, I go to court. Why don't you want to go to court when I've taken you? Because the law doesn't say that you are imprisoned before trial. They're saying they will take you to court, put your case as why you are doing what you are doing.
Okay.
So, but for you, you want a favorable ground that you abuse and it's me who goes. And we are saying when you do what you do, take responsibility. And still the court process will be there. So you'll be heard. What is the problem with it?
Okay. Well, as we wrap up this entire discussion, it is emotion somewhere, it is politics somewhere, but the law definitely has to come and reign in, and that is why, just as I've offensively communicated to Honorable Dan Kibosho, we might have a court case coming through. Anyway, that's tongue in cheek. The next discussion coming through, of course, as the budget framework paper is coming on, and a lot that is happening in the country is what exactly should be setting the national discourse for Uganda? This is quite a broad question, but that is where we come through, because sometimes when we see events that are unfolding in Parliament, for example, now the Select Committee with regard to the following the Rules and Disciplinary Committee that had ordered that a censure of Honorable Passes Namuganza comes through, is now, there is a Select Committee that will be looking into matters of discipline. And I want to start with you, Raymond. What sets the national agenda? What sets that discourse? We are talking budget, we are talking politics, we are talking discipline in that sense.
Mildred, that's a political culture problem. Of course, there are caucuses within Parliament. There's a business committee of Parliament,
yes,
which agrees what business should be taken on, what business should be taken aside. And oftentimes it boils down to the business committee to agree on what should be put on the docket for Parliament to discuss. Some things are mandatory by law. Whether they like or not, they must discuss the budget. In fact, if they could do away with discussing the budget, I am half sure this Parliament would do away with that conversation and discuss other things. Again, like I said, we are in a very divisive political culture at the moment, and many politicians have refused to see it for what it is. You have radicals on both extremes of the political divide, and those radicals have been created by the political environment that we have. There was a time when we had people who would justifiably call centrists, people who thought that there's national good that exists far and above my political ambitions. Those centrists have been purged. Progressively, we've seen the crash of the walk-to-work protests. We've seen politicians of good repute being jailed, being beaten, tear-gassed, their rights taken away. We've seen elections being contested left, right, and center. People are being jailed in court-martialed. People are being kidnapped, taken away in drones. All that political culture creates the radicals that you see today, and also detaches people. I keep telling many people who don't recognize this, the person who is the president of Uganda can be voted by the number of people who don't even pay taxes. Those of us who pay taxes are only 2 million. There's 15 million people that vote, and the president normally wins these elections with about 5 million voters. So it's possible that the people who even pay taxes to engage with the state every day cannot get who they want for the presidency. So they can't control the business of government. Okay. And I wanted to disagree with Dan that we are an uncivilized country. Honestly, there are kingdoms here whose civilizations date back, way back. We are actually a very civilized country that we're able to live with each other. The question now is, this legislative culture that is being used currently, does it address the future concerns? We've lived through double-digit inflation for a whole year. Nobody in Parliament is saying, how are we going to legislate for wage increment for people who entered inflation with stationary wages and are still stuck at the same wages? If you were earning 2 million at the start of this inflation, it's being wiped away because the price of fuel is high, the price of basic commodities is high. Parliament should be legislating for how can we increase wages of workers. That's a conversation we've not seen. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs whose businesses died during COVID. And you would have imagined Parliament would have said, okay, guys, for the next 5-6 months, we're going to work with this budget and see how can it address these people who've run out of jobs. We have a crisis of unemployment on our streets, which has led to increase in crime. And that's another matter that has to be discussed. But like I said, those priorities can only be debated when we address the political culture. Okay. At the moment, our political culture is being held hostile by radicals on both extremes. It's not just one. On both extremes, there are radicals in the ruling party, there are radicals that oppose them, and they're holding us hostage.
Thank you. Upon which basis, Agatha, do you think national discourse should be set? Because you've oftentimes, of course, seen a number of Ugandans who would say, is that really of concern to the nation? Is that something parliamentarians probably should be paying attention to at this point in time?
I think we can do that by going through what Parliament has done over the last 1.5 years that it has, this 11th Parliament. It has censured Zake. It has passed the Parliament Administrative Amendment Act. It has passed many others, Mining and Minerals Bill, Fisheries Bill. Some of these bills, no, the landlords was in the last Parliament, I think. Some of these bills, interestingly, have, I think more than 50% of the bills that have passed have been returned by the president. Well, the return could not entirely be about quality, but about politics still, but also the quality of the bills leaves a lot to be desired. We have time and again shown concern about the length of time spent on passing a bill. It's as if, like, when it's a law to be passed, they are in such a hurry. Like, you can think they have so much other work to do, and then you find that there's so much other work to do is the censure of Zake, the censure of Namgans. And let's look at the reasons of those censures in the first place. It's what we are talking about. It's personal, emotional, just abuse of authority. And I was telling Honorable Dan that the difference between him and Raymond, who are both abused, not just Raymond. For me, I can't start saying things they have said about me on social media, dragging in my children and all that. The difference between us on this side and them there is because we have no power. Yeah?
You have the power as a citizen.
What I mean, I don't have the power to pass a law to stop those people from abusing me. Now, for them, because they're abusing that power in a way to just protect them, their individual interests, that's abuse of authority. So you look at Zake, it was because he had apparently abused the speaker. And the censure motion was a very urgent thing. You look at Namuganza now. Do you know why Namuganza is being censured?
Discipline. It is said.
Why? What discipline? Those are the vagueness. That's the vagueness we've been
That
talking
the law
about.
is talking
what
about.
Discipline? Because what Namuganza did was to go on parliamentary WhatsApp group and say that, and ask, why do we form select and ad hoc committees for every other thing? And I'm glad we have Honorable Dan Chimosho, because he led the select committee that Namuganza was questioning into the Naguru land. She said, we have substantive committees for all that. Why are we going into committees that are formed to witch hunt people, to witch hunt us, the members? That is what she said. That is what she's being censured for. So when you look at all these things, you feel that Ugandans are right to say, but can't they discuss things that are affecting us? And there are so many.
Okay.
We have seen hospital problems. We have seen lack of drugs in hospitals. We have seen salary issues. We have seen so many issues. But how they pick what is discussed, I think you have also seen Joel Senyonyi, the Honorable, talking about the report he made about Uganda Airlines, which he finished in September, and it has never been on the order paper. So it begs the question, how is that business? How is that the urgency, the importance determined of this is what is important to discuss today, and the rest can wait for, yeah.
Agatha, we'll take a very short break. When we do return on the same conversation, Solomon and Honorable Dan Chimosho will be weighing in upon what basis, upon what ground should national discourse be set. And of course, when we talk about that, Parliament comes in a very, very huge aspect, because it's where the business of discussion of the country stems from. That and much more when we do return.
So, this is where it all began. Those styles weren't working.
So we made something better.
And you didn't stop there.
We knew we weren't changing the world with our clothes, but the women who wear them might.
And you went from playing with dolls
to becoming a fashion powerhouse.
We see you're great. Katukuyande okusensamu with Absa Business Banking. Speak to us about how we can help you get it done. That's Africanacity. That's Absa.
Buying a Mercedes, Toyota, or Range Rover? Let World Navy make your dream car a reality by importing it directly from Japan. We offer cash and Stanbic Bank direct import financing of up to 80%, meaning you can secure your dream car with only a 20% deposit. We offer free pre-shipping car service, accident-free and mileage certificates for your peace of mind. Find us at Forest Mall Ugogo, Block A, ground floor, or call 0704 105 159. World Navy. Drive luxury.
Experience the thrill of the tackles, the speed of the wings, and the power of the scrum as your favorite teams battle it out on the pitch. The now Special Rugby Premier League. Catch all the action, drama, and excitement of the game as it all unfolds in real time. Starting this January 2023, live on NBS Sport, championing Ugandan sport.
ekituuka nekiganda bwe kiti singa faamu eyo eba evaawo n'enzirayo mu ngeri yange nga bwe nali kinsingirako.
It is common sense which answers that.
RDC yagamba nti bino bimuliko bibalimba tugenda okubagoba wano lwampaka.
That was doing it on his own.
What they are claiming for is not theirs.
Saawa ya leo tulinze ssente tewali kavaayo konna.
22 years, that's too long.
However, we are trying to push.
What they are claiming for is not theirs.
Twatambula naye mwana wa kitange ne bwenfa ekiro kubanga pepa wakamukozi.
If you are wise, you can eat what is not yours.
And Martin Sankoto spills the ball, and just like that, self-destruct.
The new Star Times Uganda Premier League season is here.
Straight into the back of the net.
Fresh. Watch more live games featuring top signings and renewed rivalries.
He literally has just vindicated his coach.
Uganda's Ultimate Football League also returns to a whole new dedicated channel. Watch the Star Times Uganda Premier League on Sanyuka Pride. Brought to you by MTN, the official broadcast sponsor.
All right, good morning to you again. Thank you so much. Welcome to the last part of the Morning Breeze Media Roundtable. As we still make sense of some of the biggest stories making headlines, I still do have Solomon Seranja, Honorable Dan Kimosho, Agatha Tire, together with Raymond Mojuni, speaking about some of those issues. As we went for the break, it was what should set the tone of national discourse and what we are exactly doing right now. Solomon, I want to come to you in that regard. Are we setting up priorities and discussions straight?
Well, I think that the focus for the next couple of months should be around our economy. This global recession.
You're having budget cuts, at least for Uganda's case.
Which is good, but where is the money that, Ramadan Gobi released Q3 money. If you look at how the money that was released, a lot of it is going into wages and paying salaries, and just a small percentage of it is going into development. But I think this is buttressed by where our economy is, and this is where our legislators have to be very careful, and also our economists need to come in and support. Globally, countries like the US are continuing to suffer with inflation. The central banks, both in the UK and in the US, are continuing to pull out their monetary policies to manage inflation. They continue to increase their interest rates to really manage inflation. Currently, our inflation is still double-digit, like what Raymond says. It's about what? It has continued to reduce, which is some good stuff. It now stands at 10.2, which is cool because of the central bank's monetary policy and the fiscal policies from the Ministry of Finance to manage inflation at that level. But also what that means is that the CBR continues to increase. Because the central bank is trying to manage inflation, then it means that the cost of money at commercial banks continue to increase. If you went to a bank to get a loan right now, do you know at what interest? You're a business person.
Yeah.
The interest,
terribly high
interest rate is currently very high. Some banks are giving loans at about what, 25%. But currently, I saw the Ramadan Gobi report yesterday. He put it about 18.5%. And that means
depending on which loan you're getting, because all those are as well differentiated.
Yeah. But you see where what that means is that private sector credit also continues to drop, because if the interest rate is high, it means Mildy to ISA will not go to the bank to actually get money to invest into the
production
businesses.
And when there is no production, that means there's going to be more goods. There is a ripple effect. It's a cycle.
And that means that our focus should be on how do we actually support production in terms of agriculture production. How do we invest money in agro-processing to grow and innovation, so that people can be able to process what we get and we export more, so that we can have some money into the economy. I'm also thinking that the conversation on oil and gas should come back. I think it has sort of taken a back seat, but there's a lot of activity going on. There's projected investment of about $10 billion into this economy by 2025. So conversations around the oil and gas sector should come back to the discussion table. How far have we gone with that investment? But also, I think most importantly is how do we support SMEs? Because they really contribute strongly to our economy.
Okay.
So the Ministry of Finance, the economists of this country, and the legislators need to align to support the bounce back of our and the healing of our economy, so that we can be able to produce a kilo. Yesterday I went and bought a kilo of posho, Mildred. A kilo of posho is at 4,000.
That's true.
It has never happened in the past. A kilo of posho, Mildred,
But
is
don't worry, the
4,000.
maize prices are dropping, so probably you will have it
4,000.
go
I couldn't
down a
believe.
little
We used to
bit.
buy a kilo of a kilo of
Posho at about
posho
1,500.
at 1,500.
Yes.
It is at 4,000 now. So what does that tell you? It's either we support our farmers to continue to produce so that the prices come down, or very
Doomsday.
soon we are going to go through a very bad time.
All right, Honorable Dan Kimosho, what do you think is setting the tone for national discourse? And of course, this partly coming from the discussions that you as Parliament are having.
Thank you very much. Of course, Parliament has become more vulnerable because people tend to focus on the negative and deliberately ignore the positive. But I think
We apologize, sir.
it must up as an institution. As an institution, then that means we must up our game
Okay.
to explain to the public the positive.
Or maybe the positives are being overshadowed and you need to speak about them or exhibit them.
The people's feelings, out of many frustrations, they are so magnetic to the negative. And what the board absorbs is what it gives out. But then that puts Parliament to a challenge that we must aggressively come out and explain what we have done over a period of time, so as to be understood. Now, that notwithstanding, I think now, minus speaking as a member of Parliament, or minus speaking as, you have cornered me to speak on behalf of Parliament, really, for the job that I don't earn from, because I want Ugandans, yes. There is a big challenge that we must all address our mind to. Yes. And this is the challenge of the economy. And this economy is not a Ugandan issue. It is a global issue. There are challenges. Many countries across the world have challenges with their economies. And we must take deliberate steps. Even as Parliament, we must champion. We shouldn't only be seen to champion, but we must actually, in the real sense of the word, champion the reforms that can create a fair situation. I can tell you, and I have consistently disagreed with the technical group of this country on the figures they give us, on the reduction of poverty, because I can tell you, I move in villages, and you see poverty. There is poverty. People are poor. We must take deliberate steps. There are good government programs like parish government model. There is a Myoga that recently was. Government tries, but I think we have the problem of implementation and monitoring. We have, as a country, kind of politicized. You see, it's wrong to politicize everything. You politicize the law, politicize the economy, politicize the social life. It's very wrong. I think we must come out very boldly that if government comes up with programs, they must be implemented. What my brother Raymond was blaming Parliament on about supporting the businesses that were affected by COVID. Actually, Parliament appropriated money. But when you dive in to see who received this money, you cry for the motherland, Uganda.
Okay.
People who do not deserve any support are the beneficiaries of this money. Now, I think, of course, partly big time, it is the role of Parliament in our oversight committees to come out. But you see, to say it alone as Parliament is not enough. There must be a strong executive will to pin out pin out these challenges. You have been seeing what is happening in NSSF. And actually, the biggest challenge, in my view, of course, we are suffering like any other country because of COVID and the many other international effects of trade that affect other countries, the wars, and the other you can mention. But as a country internally, our levels of corruption are going so high, very rapid.
Does Parliament have any role with regards to ensuring that comes through?
You see, what I have seen is that you will sit, of course, make a report, and even the one that my sister is talking about. I am a member of that committee. I was part of that committee. And we I mean the COSASE. What you call senior in your report.
Okay.
It is the COSASE report. That is another bonanza that happened, and I don't want to go into it because it will drain my discussion.
The committee bonanza or the Naguru bonanza itself?
If you read our report, at least you would understand that there was no bonanza, because whoever did what we believed was wrong was brought out.
Okay.
Now, if you don't implement the report, that is at another point. But about the corruption issue, we need and you know, countries, I will not say that the corruption issue is a monopoly of the Ugandan affair. Corruption is in many countries, even those that we represent to be non-corrupt. The challenge with us is that people eat fast and they want to work later. Now, at the point they want to work, they have nothing to work with. That's why you see many government programs storing, even when we have, out of goodwill as Parliament, understood and tried to appropriate.
Okay.
But the last challenge, finally,
yes,
we must strive as a country, and without apportioning blame, to streamline appropriation and later on releases. You see, you go and say Parliament has appropriated. If you want to review, for example, the previous budget, what Parliament appropriates and what later on gets to be released
and how it's used.
And to who. There is a lot of issues that we must fix. You see, I feel at times very scared that we either operate out of guesswork or out of a shroud, you know, as if people don't think they should follow the systems.
Thankfully, you're in a house that should be playing oversight. Our time is really fast spent.
And that's why, finally, this is what I want you to get off. It shouldn't be a Parliament issue. Let's be knit together. Where is civil society? Where is Parliament? Where is executive?
You might offensively communicate while we are coming to be
But
together.
that we have fought off at least partly.
Okay.
So instead of abusing each other,
all right,
on Twitters for nothing, let's dive into the economy and bring out the issues that affect the common person.
Thank you. I just have 5 minutes to spare, and thankfully we have 5 people right here. Today, another select committee with regard to the discipline of Honorable Persis Namuganza is coming through. But this is literally in my own thinking, this is literally what the Committee on Privileges Rules did exactly, and I'm wondering, did this necessitate another committee to come through? Your guess could be as good as mine, but I'll give you a minute, Raymond, of course, to start off with you. What do you think of this, and what are your expectations of the Select Committee?
I have no expectations, and I don't think it's important. Discipline is a very personal matter. If you feel someone is indisciplined, you must personally take it up. I think that using
not a parliamentary committee?
If you use state organs to control discipline, I don't know how far we'll go. I mean, there are members of parliament who don't show up for parliamentary sessions. There's absenteeism in parliament. That's a discipline matter. There are members of parliament who are picking money for the committees that they for MDAs that are investigating. It's a discipline matter. It's also a corruption matter.
Okay.
So discipline is a really personal matter. I would advise moving forward for parliament, some of these things really just rise above the chaff and move on, do other things. There's a lot to work with that you can move over these things and delegate that time to more important things.
Thank you. To you, Solomon, still no expectations of this select committee. We are looking at matters discipline.
I think for me, it's just people proving that they can be above others and they can limit their ability to express themselves in the way they should. I think what we're seeing is the speaker trying to tell anyone who can stand up against her that I have the power actually to...
One would say the select committee was formed by the deputy speaker in chair.
I mean, what's the difference? But if you raise your head above and challenge the speaker, you know, power corrupts and corrupts. They say what?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When there are people in the house, in the Kadaga house, who used to stand up against the speaker, and she would pull out every effort to actually try to manage them. When, let's come now to the current speaker. Look at Zake. You know, he was, you know, his head was beaten and all that, whilst people tried to fight for him, he was put down. They are now Namganza. Who else is going to stand up and speak against, even internally, because there are people who are rebels, right, within every organization. Even here at Next Media, there are rebels who actually speak up. Instead of the leaders to listen to what they are speaking, they will actually try to silence them and therefore show them as examples to everyone that the moment you raise your head,
sacrificial lamb,
as these people have done, you will actually be sacrificed. And therefore, even when there are issues going on within the institution of parliament, people will actually put their tails between their legs and keep quiet. Okay. Because they have showed them that you will actually be like a Zake or like a Namganza.
Okay.
And that is bad for an institution that is supposed to promote democracy and free speech.
Thank you very much. Agatha, your 2 cents about the select committee that is expecting Honorable Persis Namganza today. Why did you have to first look at Honorable Dan Kimosho and laugh?
No. I was looking at Seranja.
She likes me.
I am very glad that Seranja is the one who said that. If I had been the one, I would have said, oh, she has a personal grudge against the speaker. But so the select committee now, it's part of the rules of procedure that I think they thought that would sort of seemingly give justice, that after the rules committee, after the censure motion is garners enough signatures and is tabled in the House, you get a select committee that now reviews the evidence that upon which it has reached this level. And the expectations with it are good. I have seen the chair, Mwine Mpaka, ask them tough questions like, what exactly did she do? What do you mean discipline? The questions we're asking here. And they said abuse of authority, of office. Because, you know, there are 2 reports against Namganza.
Disrepute of parliament?
There are 2 reports against Namganza. There's a report by Honorable Dan Chimosho's committee, which said Honorable Namganza was found guilty of influence peddling and abuse of office in regards to the land that was allocated to investors in Naguru. But they did not go under that report to censure Namganza. But what I saw in the committee was it's as if now they are using abuse of authority as the reason they are abuse of office as the reason they are censuring Namganza. The expectations at the end of the day, it's Parliament. From the start, it's the MPs that complained. It's the MPs that went and appeared before the committee of rules.
The committee
it's
is
the
by
MPs, the mob, as Namganza called it, that debated on the floor of Parliament, and Namganza really was ganged up against. And it's still the MPs now that are in this select committee. I think if the rules had said maybe we outsource and someone else, someone neutral, looks at the evidence tabled, maybe it would have been served justice.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, Honorable Dan Kimosho, did we really deserve?
I'm very constrained.
Did we? No. And you're speaking as a parliamentarian. Probably you will be able to tell. Did we need another select committee with regard to a matter of discipline? After your select committee, it has talked about whatever Agatha did say, and then we move on to a disciplinary committee, it presents its report, and we have another select committee.
All you see happening, rules provide for it. Those are the steps of censure. And you have no room, no space, no legroom to do otherwise if you must censure a minister. So whatever you see happening, they are the laid down rules of procedure.
Okay.
On what is Namugans is being charged with is not abuse of office. It is misconduct and misbehavior. 2, the person...
I was saying about what appeared in the committee, the select committee yesterday. I know what she's charged with. Yeah.
Okay. The person who presented the motion basing on those 2.
Indiscipline.
Misbehavior and misconduct. The evidence adduced yesterday and in future, if the committee is still interested, zeroes down on the 2 cases. The issue of Naguru is out of question in this because the report was tabled. It cannot be, the rest is for the executive to implement.
Okay.
If they don't implement, there are the other rules, because there must be a memoranda after 6 months updating Parliament on the progress, on how executive has implemented what recommendations of Parliament. That will come at that point. But currently, what Namuganza is grappling with, it is the issue of indiscipline and misbehavior. And I'm conflicted because I seconded this motion. I don't want... I was a witness yesterday.
Yes.
Before this matter is decided, I am constrained.
You seconded.
I will protect you. It is okay. I totally understand. I close the discussion at this.
No, before you close it, I wanted to point you to the rule that provides for a select committee.
Yes.
109 sub rule 9. So after 14 days of tabling the motion, which was tabled on 23rd or 22nd of December,
yes,
a select committee is formed, but still by the Speaker who is aggrieved and their office in this case, to scrutinize and identify prima facie evidence to the allegations and lead the House under the provisions of sub-rule 11 in the proceedings of censure. So yeah, the select committee this time was not as arbitrary as the one she complained about, but this one is,
that is in the rules.
Provided in
Here, with Agatha to come and discuss what she calls arbitrary. But what I'm saying...
No, she said it in the context of what Honorable Namuganza
said.
Yes.
Which was also wrong. You know, Namuganza is not a Speaker of Parliament. She is a minister of what? Something.
But you know what she's the minister
now,
of.
If a member of Parliament does not know the ministers of the country,
especially a member of Parliament that investigation.
But why can't I be protected?
She's a state minister housing. I protect
housing.
You.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I am constrained to dive into the nitty-gritties of this matter until it's decided.
Please do
so
not.
If I seconded and I was a witness.
And I know that the parliamentary committee goes to the level of a high court.
Can we also ask why he seconded it and he...
After the matter has been decided. We can come back here.
Anything the Speaker, the interests he has are very high. So we should
I will end this because
I
see where this conversation is headed.
I'm starting to think. I have always heard that Agatha has issues with the Speaker, so I'm starting to believe because he's taking it personal.
Thank you, Agatha, and thank you, Raymond. This has to come to an end. That's all we had time for on the Media Roundtable. Good morning. Have a lovely weekend. God bless you.